In honor of Veterans Day today, we have a wonderful campground conversation with an Army captain and Blackhawk pilot who now finds himself just beginning the RV nomadic life. Welcome to RV Out West. I'm your host, Brooks. My Family of Four's base camp is located in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and our RV adventures radiate out from there. Please grab a mug of coffee and join us as we discuss RVing around the American West. From sweet camping spots, gear and equipment, to tips and tricks, we've got you covered. We are RV Out West. From Blackhawk missions in Afghanistan and Iraq to summiting mountains in Africa, Caleb, better known as Captain VD, sits down at the campground picnic table along with our pups to share with us how he got into RVing, what RV he now calls home, and what he plans to do for the next year or so. I first met Caleb and his cousin Jason randomly while I was on a solo fall camping trip earlier this year. Captain VD now finds himself on the precipice of a great journey through the lower 48 in his brand new travel trailer. Thanks for talking with me this evening as we're sitting around a campfire here in the park. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I grew up in the military, so kind of on the run. My upbringing was pretty outdoorsy, although never lived in one place long enough, to establish kind of a clan of people that go out and camp. I joined the military.
And what branch were you in?
I was in the Army. That camping was, I suppose, for work, so a little bit different than kind of the type of camping that we're doing now. As I got older, a lot of my friends were getting travel trailers. At the time, I lived in Seattle. I didn't really see the allure. At the beginning of 2022, I went through separation, divorce, and decided I was going to change my life. And so left the job, sold my house, and took my dog just eastbound with no plan, really. The only plan was that I didn't really want to exchange time for money like I had coming out of the Army. And I just kind of wanted to make it up as I go. And one of the first things that I purchased was a pickup truck, which I had never owned a pickup truck. I tried to go cross country in a Tesla Model S, which was a terrible idea. Drive for 2 hours, charge for one. And I made it to Spokane and decided I needed something that burned dinosaurs. Now that I had a pickup truck, and I think that opened the door to having more serious conversations with friends who had travel trailers. The more that I thought about it, the more it seemed like a plausible solution. So did a lot of couch surfing, and did not want to be a burden, but I also acquired a bunch of shit. And that had to be stored somewhere, and it couldn't be, in the Tesla. And while I had a bed of a truck now, that wasn't a solution either. So I knew that I wanted to travel around the lower 48, and I knew that I needed something more substantial, more practical that gave me the freedom. So that, I think, led me to more serious consideration about getting a camper. Recently, at the beginning of September, I climbed Kilimanjaro and stayed in a tent for, 12 days. I think I made the purchase while I was in Tanzania. And I think that was probably the deciding factor is just enjoying the outdoors, having access, and then conceptualizing what could my near-term future be like if I had, something more substantial that I could, and the freedom of being able to kind of travel across the country. So that's how I purchased my first, or my only camper.
So tell me about you're at the base camp at Kilimanjaro. You're doing research on a trailer. What were some of the factors for your trailer that were like your must-haves?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question because I guess two of my friends take a larger family out in their campers. And then another friend of mine has a toy hauler and just him and his fiance. The discussions and advice that came from them was inconsistent with like this idea, because I really didn't. I didn't know what I didn't know at that point.
Right.
What I did know was that I didn't want something that was overly large, difficult to tow, knowing that I was going to put a lot of miles. At the time, my first pickup truck was a 2002 Ford F-150, and had over 230,000 miles. So a big consideration on the purchase of my first trailer was, am I going to be able to make it, out of the parking lot with this older truck? Outside of that, again, it was, I guess kind of like house hunting. What sort of floor plan or layout do you think that you would want without having any experience at all, just kind of doing it virtually? And so I thought that I really wanted, I guess, a queen size bed, a single slide out that would be, the entertainment area. And then I wanted the bed or the living space and the bathroom to be opposed. So like bed in the front and bathroom in the back.
Yep.
And I really only needed room for myself and my pups. But two people would probably is really what I was looking at as far as max.
So what model did you ultimately buy and decide on?
So I got a 2022 Grand Design Transcend Explorer 200 MK. Okay. And I was looking at Winnebago and Grand Design based on input from my friends who had owned more, several trailers, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
So that recommendation and narrowing that search, because not knowing I guess the quality or convenience of different manufacturers or brands, I really relied pretty heavily on those who had been doing it for years.
You found your model. You made your decisions. You made your whatever. You sent earnest money from Africa or whatever you needed to do to say, yep, I'm going to buy this. You get home from Kilimanjaro. What happened next?
Drove to the dealership, and because I had an older truck, and because I was unsure, again, first truck I've ever owned, and I think I had, at this point, I maybe had only driven it for 10 hours. So super unfamiliar with not just trucks, but had never towed anything.
Yeah, I never towed either.
Yeah,
it's cool. Like I like it actually.
So I didn't know what I didn't know. So in conjunction with purchasing and finalizing the contract and receiving the trailer from the dealership, I took my truck in to have it checked up to say, hey,
give me a lowdown.
Will this thing, make it towing this trailer with these parameters? Over the course of, while that was in the shop, I suppose, then I had ample time with the salesperson to go through all of the accessories. And I think I learned that there's no shortage of things, one, that are critical for owning a trailer.
Good question. Because I always talk about this. What would you define as critical?
So I will say this. This is the sixth time that I've ever set my trailer up today.
What number?
Sixth. And there's so much that I didn't know before. So, every conversation leads to more information and, certainly likely more things that I need to purchase. But so the original question is what is critical, or what, in my opinion, what is critical at my experience level? And I think in order to answer that question, I should say this. I set up today with the help of my friend who's been who's very experienced at setting up his trailer and is very meticulous. And I thought that I knew what the hell was going on. So I was like, hey, sit back, watch, and just let's discuss afterwards. After backing in and establishing the trailer in the right location, I think the second thing that I attempted to do, Jason, my friend, was like, all right, stop. Like, before you ruin your trailer, let's talk about it. And then I think he officially took over setting up my trailer for the sixth time today.
Nice. Okay. What did you learn?
So I learned about leveling. I learned that the jack stands are not for supporting weight, are not for leveling. They are for stabilizing. I learned the best way to make sure that the trailer is level and really the right process to go through it. So I think and again, I did this previous night on my own with 2 dogs running amok. And I think the very first thing that I did was put it up on, lower the jack on the tongue and unhitch it with the wheel X blocks or chock in, I guess.
X shocks, yeah.
Yeah. And then tried to do everything as quick as possible so that I could get to bed.
The biggest thing for me, one of my rookie learns, X chocks are not chocks. The name is very confusing.
Yeah,
X chocks are stabilizers as well.
So I don't know this.
I didn't
This is
either.
new information to me
I
right
didn't
now.
know that when I first.
I thought they were brakes.
I was using X chocks and I'm like, oh, the tires aren't moving. We're fine. We're chalked. And it wasn't until somebody else that I follow on social media who was like, X chocks are stabilizers to help stabilize. You still need to chalk your tires.
Yeah, so I had never done that.
I had no idea. It was
Likewise.
a big learn. Big
So
learn.
I think I've learned so much today. I learned what I did incorrectly the last 5 times.
Okay.
But and also everything that I'm missing in my kit bag.
But that's the other thing. We all love to geek out
So,
on gear. So
exactly.
you can geek out on gear.
Yeah.
And, But so, I mean, yeah. So like,
So I would say obviously the things that are important in my mind, I guess, are the things that are going to stabilize and make the trailer secure.
Yep.
And then ease of setup and teardown are, I would say.
but you haven't listed gear yet. So
Yeah,
So
so-
poo slinky, X chocks are in your thing. A poo slinky you need because if you want to.
So I don't know the names of any of
matter.
the stuff that I have.
Doesn't matter. We're
but
talking.
I have 2 bags of they look like big orange Legos that you put underneath.
Yeah, underneath your stabilizers
Yeah.
to help when the
Right.
when you're on
And
secure.
so Jason showed me that they actually come with tops so that they're flat instead of the Legos, and then also the chocks so that you can level.
Yep.
So I think that those now are
Super
critical.
important. Yep.
So here's a couple of things that my 2002, my first pickup truck, made it from Wisconsin to Spirit Lake and no further than South Dakota before I had to trade it in. So I traded in and got a newer GMC, still half-ton truck, but this had a tow package. So it integrated braking system. It had backup camera, which I didn't have before.
Yeah.
And I think it took me 45 minutes to just get it close enough, and then I tried to lean into the hitch to try and just lower it and see if maybe one of the 2 things would move. Like it was comically bad how bad I was at first. It just understanding like which way do I turn the wheel to get the
Hitch to go where you want it
Yeah,
to go.
well-
I mean, your
well,
trailer ball to go where you want it to go.
yeah. I guess even more so than that, just trying to connect. Like how do I turn the truck in order to get the bed to go left or right, and then how close do I actually need to be? Because I think I tried to hit I tried to connect it at like a 45-degree angle at first because I was like, oh, this is close enough, surely. So backup camera on the truck and then backup camera on the trailer. Those have been
Game changers.
Those have been game changers for me, especially since I've been doing. Well, I think in the future. Last night was the first night that I ever, set up camp by myself. But that is, more likely than not moving forward. So those are definitely things that are critical, in my opinion.
Kind of what's your plan? What are you thinking? What's next steps? I mean, you've shared with me you're taking a year to be on the road. So
Right. Yeah. There's a couple of things. One, with international travel starting to open up more and more, and not having really had any vacation in the last 2+ years or so, vacations outside the country, there are some international places that I would like to go. But now I have, my own place to store all the stuff rather than, put it in the corner of a family member or friend's garage.
And just to back up,
Sure.
You are full-time RVing now at this point. I mean,
Yeah,
you don't have a home. You don't have an apartment. You're not.
No, I do not have
So you are fully
a mailing
nomadic.
address of any sorts.
You're fully nomadic at this point.
Yeah, that's right. So
And you're
I
just
guess
starting out,
that's correct.
which is awesome.
Number 6.
Yeah.
I'll say I try not to plan any more than 2 weeks in advance.
Okay.
I do need to go back east and pick up the remainder of my stuff that is in Iowa.
Okay.
And so following that, I think what I plan to do is to head south. So I have some friends in Austin, Texas, and in Albuquerque. And then I've been, the more and more that I think I get into, I guess, the RV lifestyle, the more that I see or learn about places to go at different times of the year. I think you and I had spoken about heading to Texas in March for the Rattlesnake Roundup. For me, I really only know what's going to happen the next 2 weeks.
Good for you.
And then after that, it's really kind of looking at where in the country, where in the lower 48. I'm more than confident with the truck that I have now, but I'd like to have shit wired tight where I know.
Yeah.
So I think events and, notable, I guess, locations based on time of the year are really how I'm sort of loosely planning out the remaining, I would say, 6 or 7 months.
I think that's great. Can I ask you?
Sure.
So I have a personal question, but how are you affording this? I think that's going to be on a lot of people's minds. How do you afford to do a year on the road? Like, we don't need to get into detail, but are you working remotely so you're bringing in income?
Working. No.
So is this still just kind of money saved or a sale of a house that you're kind of doing? Like, what's your?
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
So it's both the sale of the house locally here in Seattle at the peak and money saved and just trying to be diligent, although I'm not very good at it, having to buy a new truck and the trailer itself on managing a budget.
Yeah, totally.
So that, I think, in addition to the RV lifestyle, living on a budget is a new development for me as well.
One tip I have for you, and I've talked about this on my show numerous times, but I'm a big fan. So when you're on the road, Walmarts are an oasis.
Okay.
And I'm a big fan of them. And so, I mean, in my situation, I'm driving. My wife is on her phone or a tablet or whatever. Yeah. But you could do it from a campground when you know you got Wi-Fi. But you're not ordering hungry. So you're not walking through the Walmart going, I'm going to take this box of Cheez-Its right now because I need a snack. And I'm hungry and I want to eat Cheez-Its or red licorice or whatever it might be. So you can stay on budget and be like, hey, I got my budget for whatever my food budget is.
Yeah.
But then you just roll in, and Walmart parking lots are great because they're so big that you can easily pull in, park in the back, and you're fine. And then I would walk up to find out where the pickup stall is and call the number. And it's like, what stall are you in? And I have to like push 0 and be like, I'm the trailer in the back. I'm the black truck with the big trailer and that. And then they bring out my groceries and I load them right into my trailer and just have them hand it to me. And then I'll, stow things in the fridge and put things away in the pantry. But it's a great little oasis when you're on the road.
That makes sense.
And it keeps you on budget.
One of the things that I in the last, I guess, 6 or 7 days that I have found is that most people that I run into, most people that I meet at campsites are more than happy to give recommendations or provide advice or to help out.
The community is exquisite.
Yeah.
Like, it is just to randomly meet people and have this talk and then to be able to say, hey, I recommend you go check out the Rattlesnake Roundup. Or, hey, Arches is one of my favorite national parks. Where have you been? You're like, oh, this is a sweet little spot here.
Or I noticed
and when you're there, this is a great taco place. Or
and honestly, I think one of the deterrents was this perception that it's not very safe, and that hasn't been my experience at all. I think
mine either.
More so than that, I think people are looking out for one another as opposed to,
it's a community, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the encouraging things too, to go out to places that I haven't been before on my own with the pup and the older dog, and just make it up as I go.
What are some highlights you have planned for the next couple of weeks? What are you thinking? You're here in Washington State. You said you lived in Seattle. How long did you live in Seattle for?
I lived in Seattle for 7 years.
And where's original home for you? Like born and raised ish.
Born in California, raised on the road.
Where in California?
In Oakdale, small little ranching community near Escalon or Modesto.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I moved every 2 to 3 years when my father was in the Army, and then I joined the Army. So I had never lived prior to Seattle. I'd never lived anywhere for more than 3 years. Graduated high school in Germany, did my undergrad at Auburn, and got my grad or my master's degree at UW.
What did you study?
Aviation management.
Yes, okay.
For undergrad. Got my pilot's license. Was a pilot in the Army. So I still have the Tesla in Iowa, and I have a motorcycle there. And I have a bunch of other stuff. And I have stuff here. So part of this trip is to pare down, one, everything that I already have.
Condense and sell.
Yeah. Yeah, so probably making a lot of donations, reaching out to old friends and seeing if there's anything that I own that they want. So trying to just really live out of the truck and trailer. But I do have the Tesla and I do have my motorcycle. So those are going to go down south to either Baton Rouge, where I have a friend and potential job opportunity at some point in the future, and plenty of place to store, or all the way down to Florida, where my parents spend the winter. So I've been to 47 states. I haven't been to Vermont, New Hampshire, or Maine, and I'd like to do it. I'd like to go to those three, to the Northeast. Mm-hmm. When it's a good time of the year. So I actually thought coming out of Africa that I would go and spend a month out there and start writing my book. But I've got to police up all the stuff that I have left at friends and families, places, all over. You
got to shed yourself of that stuff.
I've got
so
to
you have the freedom to...
Right, exactly. And I think that's how I explain it as well, is that I quote unquote have the freedom, but not with
the mental freedom. So you need to shed the shit. So you're like free. You're free. Like
exactly. So yeah, I think, and again, I would like to keep it to just 2 weeks of planning, and go from there. I mean, I have ideas of where I would like to go, and I'm getting recommendations all the time. But outside of that, I like the freedom, and I like the mobility to just say, you know what, I don't want to continue southeast. I'm going to go northwest, or whatever it is that I want to do.
So let me ask you this. Where do you see yourself a year, 18 months down the road?
I think that I will always have an attachment to camping and RV. I think I will get married again. And I think that based on the conversations I've had, almost everybody ends up upgrading or expanding or getting a new trailer. So I think that's probably where it's heading. But I think that the next piece of property that I own will have the ability to store the current trailer or a larger one.
Do you think this year, 18 months, however long it is, whatever, I mean, it's unknown at this point. It could be 2 years, whatever. Is this maybe in search of a place to call home? Do you maybe see it that way? That hey, I didn't think Maine would be so cool, and that's it. I'm going to be a Mainer.
I think I'm open to that.
Denver's my jam, or Austin's my jam,
I think the way that I explain it is I want to get thoroughly lost so I can find myself. And I think in that process, if I find a location that I really identify with, or even a region, then I might focus in on that. Kind of like my search for my trailer itself is, honing in on what I think that I like as far as the capabilities and floor plan and stuff like that, and then refining that search more and more. If that happens during this journey, then yeah, I'm open to it.
Well, Caleb, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
I'd like to thank Caleb and all other veterans for their service in protecting our freedoms and our country. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening. To help the show grow, please share with your RVing friends and family about this podcast. If you have an idea for a topic you'd like me to discuss, please contact me at rvoutwest.com. Our next episode is going to drop on the Monday after Thanksgiving, just in time for Cyber Monday, as I'm going to share some great RV-friendly white elephant gift ideas. From the silly, to the naughty, to the helpful, I've got some great ideas to make you the rock star at your next white elephant gift exchange. Now, get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon. Thanks so much for listening to RV Out West. Join us again in 2 weeks with our next episode. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you choose to get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And I sure would appreciate if you left a rating or a review of the show. Special thanks to Scott Holmes Music for providing the intro song, We Are One. RV Out West can be found on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact with us and follow along on our RV adventures around the Pacific Northwest. So get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.